I'm Jessica Thomas with Cake du Jour, and today I'm going to teach you how to cover a 10-inch round in fondant. Things that you will need to do this: you will need your buttercream icing. This is a bowl for excess icing, the offset spatula. I have my fondant pre-rolled here. I have my rolling pin, a knife to trim. This is not serrated. I have a fondant smoother, a pin, and I'll explain what this is for, and this is of course a dowel that we'll talk about down the road a little bit. But for now, you can see that I've already pre-iced some of this. So what I'm going to do is just quickly run this around the top so that you can see how to get started. So this is a regular buttercream icing, and I'm taking the smooth side. Actually, see, there are two sides here. There is a side that this will make a sort of a ruffle, but I really like to use a smooth side because it's just less smoothing that you have to do later on. So you're going to put that ruffle side down so that the smooth side comes out. Apply even pressure. I'm at about a 45-degree angle. I've got my cake on a turntable, so I'm just going to turn here and gently keep squeezing. You can see here that the icing bag skipped a little bit. It's okay. No one is going to see that. We'll just smooth it out later on. I'm going to fill in the inside circle. And I'm just going to keep filling until the whole thing is covered. Now, this is what we call a crumb coat. So it doesn't matter that there are little black pieces of cake in the buttercream because we're going to cover with this pretty fondant, so you won't see any of that anyway. So I'm going to set this aside, take my offset spatula, and just sort of smooth this buttercream out. And you can see how the crumbs are moving around on the icing, but again, that will not matter. Once you cover it with fondant, you won't see any of that. So it's like a beautiful little smooth mask in the end. So I'm going to spread this out evenly and make a nice smooth surface so that my fondant will then stick. And because I did this on the outside earlier, I'm going to run my offset spatula around it again to get any of the crusting away, because if an icing crusts, the fondant won't stick to it. And I'm also going to add just a little bit more for the sides here that I missed. So we'll very quickly go around, do this edge, and put this away. Now when you do the edges, it's very simple. You just sort of pull your offset spatula into the center, and you'll take all that excess icing up to the top of the cake, and then you can smooth it out just like that. You want to try to make your cake as level as possible while you're doing this so that the finished product is really nice. If you don't start with a nice clean base, you're not going to get a nice clean finish in the end. So I'm just going to take this, smooth it away. I'm going to take the excess on the spatula, wipe it off here on the bowl. You don't want too much buttercream on the side of your cake because your fondant will appear lumpy. And I'm just going to take this around here, take off any excess, and we will be ready to cover. And you can fiddle with this for a really long time if you're a perfectionist. For purposes of time, I'll get moving. Okay, there we go. That looks pretty good to me. Now, I'm just going to set this aside. Now, I already have my fondant pre-rolled. You'll notice that it's not a perfect circle. That's okay because we're going to take this knife and trim off what we don't need. So I'm just going to give this one final roll, make it look nice and smooth. You can take the fondant smoother really lightly, ahead of time, and just sort of smooth this over to give it a nice extra smooth finish in the end. So I'm going to take my fondant by the edge, I'm going to flip it over, I'm going to pick it up, and I'm going to very gently place it on my cake. Now you'll see there's a lot of extra fondant here. And what we're going to do is just go very quickly around the top and then It's like a skirt of a dress, and we actually refer to it as a skirt. You pick up the skirt with your fingers and gently start moving down about an inch to start. So you move down just across the whole thing, gently fluffing the skirt the whole time. And you just kind of go around, making the icing underneath stick to the fondant on top. That's what this smoother does. Now, a lot of people will sort of go down and use their hand to find the bottom of the cake ahead of time. Because the skirt is so heavy, it's going to start to crack here. There's a really easy way to fix that. So I'm going to go ahead and get my knife, and I'm going to start to trim because the weight of this is not going to be beneficial to the cake later. So I'm going to peel off this extra skirt and just place this to the side. And I'm going to kind of do that all the way around the edge so that that extra weight comes off. So we'll just cut, peel, place to the side, and I'll try to get in front of the camera so that you can see exactly what is going on. It's okay if it is not perfectly even because the fondant will stretch down to the bottom of the cake in the end when you have the smoother and you're finishing it up. So there we go. We've got all that big heavy skirt off now, and that's going to be really beneficial in the end to help us get that on there really nicely. So I'm going to take my smoother and I'm going to start at the top. And I'm just going to kind of go around, and like I said, we are going to start smoothing downward. You're going to keep your skirt sort of fluffed, and if you see, as I'm pushing down, the skirt is becoming longer and longer around the edge of the cake, so that we're getting a nice smooth finish here. And then what we'll do in the end is trim all of this extra off so that you won't see that. So I'm just going to take this, smooth it down, and it's okay your first couple of times, and like this cake is not cooperating exactly as I wish it would. You can always cover some imperfections up with the satin ribbon or a pretty fondant trim, and just keep smoothing down, and you'll see your cake really start to take form. We just pull that out to get the crease out. Smooth. Okay, now this is actually looking pretty good. So what I'm going to do at this point is take my smoother vertically and just gently rub around the outside of the cake. This is going to get any air bubbles that may be in the fondant out and any wrinkles out. And then I will take it across the top, sort of smooth the edges out. Just like that. Now, it's very important that when you are almost finished, you take a look at your cake eye level and look for any bubbles. If there are bubbles, which I see a little tiny one right here, if there are bubbles, you take that pin that we talked about earlier and just put it right in the top of the bubble. This puts a tiny hole in the cake, but no one will see it. And you just sort of push that air out, and that will make the top of the cake very smooth. So I'll just finish smoothing this up. Then we'll take our knife that we had, cut around the edge, trim off any excess that we accumulated after smoothing it all downward. And just about done with that. Then we take this off. And this is really important. Even if it has buttercream, you can still use it again. You just need it back in to your extra fondant pile and use it again. There we go. That looks nice and clean. Now, there is a little bit of slight cracking here. Sometimes if the fondant is dry, I had this pre-rolled. and it did get a little dry. So if it's dry, it's really easy to fix with a little bit of shortening on your fingertip. You can just rub the shortening in, let the cake sit a little while, come back with your smoother, and then smooth again, and it will look just absolutely perfect. So that's it for covering a 10-inch cake in fondant. Thanks for watching.